new strategies for customer experience and support, buyer engagement technologies with Redstage and Zendesk. To start off, I'll introduce Hasan Alchemy, Chief Revenue Officer of Redstage, and Michelle of Zendesk. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Great.
Thank you.
Ready to kick it off.
All right. Well, Hasan, can you give us a little bit of background on yourself?
Sure. Hasan Alchemy, CRO here at Redstage. I actually come from a manufacturing distribution background, and I've done that for nearly 5 years for a very, very old company. It's been around since 1890, doing things as if it was still the 1890s. I moved from that world into the technical world, primarily focused on e-commerce and a variety of technologies that tie within that. I lead our global teams across our 7 locations in 5 countries, across the e-com division of Redstage and the technologies that tie into that.
Thanks, Hasan. Michelle, want to give us a brief intro?
Absolutely. And thank you, Redstage, for having me be a part of this. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Michelle Torres. I work at Zendesk in our Technology Alliances team. So we're kind of 2 hats. One is looking after and managing our apps marketplace, which is a B2B kind of SaaS marketplace for customers using Zendesk and wanting to extend it with other tools that they use. And then second hat, which is more relevant here, is I do focus on our e-commerce and retail technology partners. So we have several B2B, B2C customers using Zendesk to run their customer support and customer experience stack. And we all know that in order to be successful, you need to have several technologies in place and integrated with each other. So super excited to be here today, and thanks again for having me.
Thank you, Michelle. And all right, let's dive in. So for the first question, from live chat to chatbots, social selling, and new technologies, merchants are more empowered than ever to drive loyalty, engagement, and better support customers and drive them to the right products. Panelists, what are some of the common gap areas where merchants are missing opportunities, and what technologies would you say can help close them? Let's start with Michelle.
Great, yeah, good question. So in terms of at least things that kind of I hear from our customers and folks utilizing Zendesk or thinking about it, a common question that comes up is around live chat versus chatbots. And there's kind of this mentality around like you have to go as a company all or nothing in one area or another. And I'd like to challenge that mentality a little bit. Live chat, being able to offer live chat 24 hours a day, 7 days a week is difficult, and I don't think many folks can do that. But obviously, from a B2C perspective, shoppers will shop 24 hours a day, 7 days a week online. So you do want to have some form of communication and line of communication. We've all been there where we need help with something online, it's late at night, you see the "we are offline" kind of message, which can cause a lot of frustration. So really my advice around that is, if you don't have someone manning a live chat, simply turn it off. It's very easy to do. It doesn't mean, again, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. And then maybe consider in those off hours implementing something like a chat bot or some sort of kind of AI powered helper on your website. So some of those questions can still get answered even though your team or your support team isn't online at that moment. So really kind of combination of both, knowing when to turn it on or off, and not having to feel like you have to be manning a live chat at all times. So that's where I think a potential gap, and just kind of what I hear from our customers, some hesitancy around that. Like there is a good way to kind of implement both strategies at the same time.
Thanks, Michelle. Hasan, do you have anything to add, or maybe mention how these challenges could be different for B2B or B2C?
Yeah, I think we can all agree, that the need, the necessity from a B2C standpoint, and perhaps even a hybrid approach to having both. To pivot off of that from a B2B spectrum, I think B2B is beginning to realize, depending on what it is they're doing, the need for this. So we work with a massive cabinet manufacturer and distributor. They're selling to contractors along with all the big box stores, but their contractors are, they're not massive, and they need to get information on the fly from time to time. Things that they just can't capture from doing their research, and they need to get a hold of someone. And if not, I mean, this is where a chatbot might be able to come in and take on some of that heavy lift. Contractors trust in one another. So if they can't find things from a review standpoint, from a research standpoint, they're going to try to reach out to you, whether it be by email or by chat. We're beginning to see the necessity for a chatbot to come in, leveraging already existing information and responses. With that, I mean, most of us know how chatbots work. They're listening to keywords and they're taking that and responding to it using the data and the algorithms that are built in within that. B2B is beginning to realize the necessity behind it, and this particular manufacturer and distributor of cabinets is beginning to look at it from that point of view as well.
Thank you both for those interesting answers. So for question number 2, the industry is abuzz with questions about customer experience. While the phrase once stood for customer service specifically, it's evolved in recent years to encompass every aspect of a customer's interaction with a brand or vendor. Panelists, what corner of the customer experience universe would you suggest merchants make their top priority, and why? Let's start with Michelle again.
Great. I love this question just because it's near and dear to what we do here. So one thing that has been coming up more, and I would say is a good place for merchants to focus, is this concept of proactive support. So it's kind of a cross between marketing, support, and sales. So the concept behind it really is, this is an opportunity for a company or a merchant or a brand to really delight your customers or vendors. So let's take, for example, subscription businesses like the Boxes of the world, Stitch Fix, Birchbox, Dollar Shave Club, etc. Let's just look at as an example. They know so much about their customers' preferences, their account. They know when it's time to refill or like place a reorder because it's a subscription-based business. Or even if something went wrong, like the delivery did not show up at their doorstep, instead of kind of waiting for the customer to reach out to you and raise an issue, be proactive about it and kind of catch them before it even gets to that point. So don't wait for them to reach out to you. And really, if we're all consumers, right? We've all been a consumer in one way or another. Think about a time where a brand or a company really surprised you and delighted you. So that's kind of the concept around proactive support. So that's more of obviously B2C. A little bit more on the B2B side, something that we're starting to explore is around an IoT use case. So more in the manufacturing kind of space where, we have these devices, for example, all, in our pockets all around the world. It could be a Roomba or a vacuum that has all this sensory data. So, as that sensory data is pinging different servers and kind of coming in and being digested and analyzed, we're exploring ways on how that data can kind of come in and proactively, if we know the battery is about to run out in 3 months in a specific device, how can that be sent to the manufacturer to say, hey, this machine or this device is about to kind of go offline or hit a roadblock very soon. Let's do something about it. Let's take action. And so we're exploring these really cool use cases, leveraging device and kind of sensory data, plugging that into Zendesk to create kind of, again, a proactive support. So then the manufacturer or the company can take action on that before it's too late. So that's my take on the cross between like customer support and customer experience.
Thanks, Michelle. Hasan, how do you feel about that?
So I agree fully. I think from my point of view, the biggest thing is communication. Communication across the customer journey and all the touch points within that is essential. I mean, we're all customers to a variety of different brands, whether it be online or offline, and that communication is essential. Whether it be on a particular product or feedback, or what's going to work, what isn't, what size, a variety of different touch points. One of the things we tend to do here at Redstage is actually go through the customer journey so that we can understand those different touch points, whether it be going through the store, online or offline, and then the different touch points of communication, whether it be an email or a chat, or just that face-to-face interaction, and then the last stage of the customer journey is retention, and keep us coming back and intrigued and a part of the brand, really truly a part of that brand. Communication is going to be that biggest component within that. I mean, I can't tell you how often that we go through this entire journey where we find all these hiccups and issues, and we make things better because of it. We've got a company, in the footwear space that has actual stores, and then they've got their online stores, and then they've got IoT components as well. And these devices mean nothing without communication. We found issues across their email. It was ending up in our junk folder, and we found that across different emails, not just work-related, but Gmail and other email providers. We found that they weren't interacting with their customers in any way possible, and they've got all this vital data, and they're not communicating with them. They're not keeping them intrigued, or not keeping them coming back. But we're learning from that customer journey, making communication even better.
Great, thank you. On to the next question. Thought leaders in the e-commerce field seem to be divided between two schools of thought when it comes to customer experience: a human-centric approach and a data-driven approach. Which would you recommend, and why? Hasan, why don't you start this one off?
So I don't mean to take a political view on this, but I have to say you kind of have to have a bit of both. I mean, everyone's talking about being more human-centric or being more data-driven. You kind of have to do a bit of both. One of the initiatives we've been spearheading for the past few years now, it's really all about data, particularly around mobile, and the optimization and learning and measuring from within that, and really trusting in that data. We learned that things we assumed would work, we kind of we said, this is a home run. It's going to happen. We're going to increase conversion rates. Well, heck, that wasn't the case at all. And in other cases where we were certain nothing really was going to happen with it, and it increased conversion rate by over 18%. We're still banging our heads against the wall. Like, how in the heck is this happening? But we're trusting in the data. We've learned to assume nothing and trust in that data and make things better because of it. The human-centric approach to this is we're learning from this, we're making things better, and we're trusting in that experience, the humans that are actually interacting with the brand, to make things better. We're including heat mapping. We're diving into the mobile wallets. We're diving into a variety of other technologies. But we've learned to test and truly trust in that data, and we're taking advantage of it across different verticals, regardless of B2C and B2B. We're trusting in that data, and we're coming in with that human-centric approach to what we do to make things better across the board.
Thanks, Hasan. Michelle, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have to agree, and I wish I could take a stance, but same thing. Both are so important. The data piece, and Hasan, totally hit it out of the park around. You need data to understand your business. So, what are your costly communication channels? What are the busiest times for you, whether that's in store or online? What are people reaching out to you about? What are the top reasons for returns, understanding everything about your business by using data, and then applying that and applying people where it makes sense. So again, like looking at busiest times, et cetera. So you definitely cannot discount the importance of data and the operational side of your business. However, hiring and your people is also extremely important. We're big believers of like investing in your people, especially from a customer support and experience standpoint. Like they are the front line. They're communicating with your end buyers and your end customers. So you want to make sure that they're having a really, really good experience. And especially in today's world where, a company's brand and their voice it's so core to loyalty. And again, going back to that, like being able to delight customers, I think they're both equally important, and use the data to understand where you need to kind of apply humans, if you will. But you definitely need to invest in both.
Excellent. And yeah, I completely agree. I think especially as companies move more into newer technologies, be it chatbots or IoT, there's really going to be a lot more that they can do with that data. And going back to the last question, there are sometimes they just have to start with what they have, and it can give a really big impact. So thank you both for your answers. Overall, throughout the course of these questions, we've covered quite a bit on how merchants can take advantage of various strategies and technologies. What would you say is the key to strengthening brand interactions regardless of technology? Michelle, you want to start us off?
Yeah, so I have two kind of points that I want to touch on. First one is know your customer or know your buyer. I've kind of already touched on this throughout the questions, but this really helps you understand how they want to communicate and interact and engage with you. It's really as simple as like the demographics of your buyers. And again, this is a little bit more on the B2C route, but who are your typical customers? What demographics are they? What generation are they? There's people that saying, like offering telephone support and like the phone is dying, but it kind of depends on who your end consumer is. They may prefer that type of communication. So understanding your customers and your buyers, and then applying that to what channels and what sort of customer experience you want to offer. Kind of same rules apply for marketing, right? Like be where your customers are. If they are on social channels and social media, then advertise there. Same for customer support, right? If that's where they're going to learn about a topic or a brand or a company, that's probably where they're going to potentially purchase, and that's probably also where they're going to complain. So know your customers' demographics, know where they are, and be where they are. So that's the first piece. And then the second piece is a little more kind of touchy-feely, but empathy, and again, very specific to kind of like the customer support experience role. It's actually one of our core values here at Zendesk. So it's a little kind of cheesy, but this, going back to it, the people in your customer support organization are the front lines, and being able to be empathetic and kind of, have that exude through the conversations and the interactions. It adds that human element. People don't always want to interact with a bot of sorts. Like they're frustrated. There's a point of frustration. So being able to kind of exhibit empathy. It's really hard to implement, but that's kind of the second advice.
Thanks, Michelle. Hasan, I know you're a big advocate of empathy. What's your take here?
Yeah, funny enough that you should bring that. It is our core here at Redstage as well, and this leads back into that human-centric approach. The last speaking engagement I had, we were on stage, and the biggest thing we were talking about was empathy and the human-centric approach within that. It's something I sit on the board at Rutgers, and the chairman of our continued education and our crown jewel is design thinking. The core of that is empathy. I think people confuse empathy with sympathy. And it doesn't mean that we're looking to give away more than we should. It's understanding the feelings and the position your customer, your coworker, your partners are in, and that they're human beings as well. And looking at it from that point of view and that position, sympathy is completely different. I feel bad for you, not I understand your feelings. So I think the definition of the two needs to be really defined before we move into the next question here. Empathy will allow you to sell more, to be part of that customer's life, to really become part of it, and vice versa. And it's something that I think more people can be doing more of. I think another thing to tie into this is trust in your system integrators, your agencies. Most of them are agnostic, okay? So trust in them to do the work for you that you would be doing yourself. If you go to a brand, most of them are going to try to sell you on their brand. If you're trusting in your agencies, your system integrators, to go do that work for you and assess them, they're going to come to you with the right technology that fits your needs, regardless, again, of what vertical, whether it be B2B or B2C. Their job is to get the best product in for you that's going to work best. I think that's essential. Another thing, if we're getting back into the data aspect here, one of the most difficult things I think many brands have is they go out there, they have these conversations, they go to these events, they jump on these webinars, and they're understanding the whys, but they don't really leave with the hows. I think the biggest thing leaving these is being able to go back and getting senior leadership buy-in so that you can actually do something with this and understand how to go about it. The data is a way to get there. We are trusting in this data. We are learning from it to make things better. We know this is going to work because it's proven. And I think that's the way to really move that needle forward. Not go pay McKinsey $1 million to tell you, hey, you need to be more user-centric. You can look at my watch and tell me what time it is. I know this. I need to know how to go about it. Data is one of those points that will help get you there. And it'll allow senior leadership to understand that this requires buy-in because it's proven.
Excellent. Well, I'd like to thank both of you for joining us today. Thanks for offering such incredible insight. It looks like a data-driven approach is absolutely paramount in order to drive that more human-centric approach. And in the same vein, Hasan mentioned what we're doing with our mobile optimization initiative, which actually Forrester just released a report about it, which you can find on Redstage.com. And if you'd like to sign up, this initiative is totally free. You can sign up and basically get some tests running on your checkout to test some of those weird or wonky head scratchers that Hasan mentioned when it comes to different customer habits and interactions on your site. Thanks again to our panelists. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.